Hello, and welcome to The Fool and the Philosopher.
The Philosopher and the Fool. It's kind of disturbing sometimes. Like, I used to think the internet was actually forever. And then, like, a huge amount of internet archive stuff got taken down because of copyright.
Yeah, well, they have a lot of deals with people to prevent that from happening, but they were also hacked recently and had a bunch of stuff lost in. And yeah, they do get constantly under assault by copyright companies. And then, there's a YouTuber or a Twitch streamer whose uncle is the head of Internet Archives, I think. And there was a bunch of tweets she did or something that she didn't want to be out there, and so people were putting them on like archive, but the archive got rid of them because the archive owners are only human. It's like you see your niece getting bullied, and you're like, oh man, but then the whole system is flawed, right?
Yeah. So certain things that I think are pertinent, I snatch and have my own copy of.
Yeah, data hoarders around the world will keep it going, little bits and pieces here, but it
does decay over time and disappear.
It's the same as a lot of our historical texts are actually not from those books. They're based on people talking about them or recording them.
Yeah, well, even something else. So a huge amount of pirate anime sites got taken down recently. And someone pointed out this is absurd. This actually destroyed several anime from like existing because the only copies of them were uploaded to these sites. And
well, the in theory, whoever had the servers still have the anime, but
or it's like you can't access these things. Like there literally was 10 copies ever produced on a VHS, and this is like the only place you can get it. And
there's a great website called, it's on the Internet Archive, but it's like the roguelikes database.
Yeah.
And it has like 30,000 roguelikes on it that, no one has ever played. And
yeah, exactly.
Like I released, is it going to be in 2 days? I'm going to release a video on a game called Sanitas, which is a really well made game, really well put together, and has some interesting ideas. I don't think it works, but they were being creative, and the game is very pleasant. It's very nice to play. A lot of roguelikes are kind of annoying to play. They've got really obscure control schemes. This game's pretty basic. But there's nowhere for it. Like, there's no website for it. The developer himself doesn't seem to have anything anymore. It's all shut down. But you can go onto this.
Yeah, and it's strange. Like, there's I have a friend who he collects videos basically on VHS and CD, and he buys them, and they're quite expensive actually. And they're like below B tier movies. He collects C tier movies, and he has a wall covered in them. So, and apparently a lot of people do that, and they're just like, oh yeah, only 100 copies of this VHS was made. It had like a budget of $10,000 and released directly to DVD, never was in theater.
I think part of it is with the internet, like, it doesn't just have to be the internet, of course. Like, it's nice just to have an obscure thing. It can be fun, right? But I think with the internet, you can play a game or watch a movie that no one has ever heard of.
Yeah.
But then online, there's like a few other people out there that have, oh yeah, I heard that too. And then you can have that shared experience. Like when Mandalore did the War of the Ring video game video.
Yeah.
It was like, whoa, there's someone else on Earth that has played this game.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. Because it's a game that doesn't seem to exist, and then suddenly you see it there, and you're like, oh yeah, wow, that's
I beat the campaigns, both of them, of that game recently. Man, like, for our RTS, that game has some problems.
It seems very Warcraft-like.
It is very Warcraft. It is a Warcraft ripoff with a skin of Lord of the Rings on top of it, and it seems kind of unfinished.
How so? Like, it's buggy a little bit, but
I feel like they wanted to make more factions than just good and evil. And I think that they basically had to slap the two to get like all the evil into one and all the good into one.
And what makes you think that?
Well, the campaigns, you have like dwarven workers, and like they have unique units for a lot of it, and some of the styles just don't mesh together completely.
And there is it's weird how many
like there's
units you can get on each faction. Like, it's very broad.
It's very broad, and then the campaign has much more specific units.
But that could also be because
also they had like 6 voice actors, I think, in total.
Oh, well, did an okay job.
Yeah.
I think it does something I haven't seen. Like, even Warcraft doesn't really do this. Resources are very limited in the game.
Yes.
Like, they're very scarce, and you don't see that in too many RTSs.
RTSs tend to try to avoid that. I've played another old obscure RTS with a friend of mine a while back, and we both exhausted the map of resources, and we only played for like 30 minutes. And we both had huge walls of towers, and we had to end the game in a stalemate. There was a case of that happening in Age of Empires too, and the guys were both streamers who were doing it. And they were literally sleeping, leaving the game running, because they both had like small amount of units, and because you can heal by hiding units in buildings, and they were out of repairs, they were basically trying to sneaky check each other slowly. And then one guy's computer eventually crashed, because the game had been running for like over 24 hours or something. And so that's how the other guy won. But that's only happened once in pro Age of Empires of them running out of resources.
And Age of Empires does have some infinite resource options. Like it has got the Fetorias, and it's got trading. And
yeah, trading does require other people to trade with, though.
You can trade with enemies, though, can't you?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can sneak trade with enemies.
And it also, I think, can you do a farm to market chain that's infinite?
No.
No.
Age of Mythology, you can have infinite resources, but you can run out if there's no Fetorias. Even number 3, I believe, has infinite resources, potentially.
And don't whales give infinite gold or something? Or?
No, whales can run out. They have like 3,000. They're just mining on water.
Okay.
Yes. There's some features I really do like the fate system, and then you can level up heroes with the fate system.
And then there's some factions that have like free fish traps and whatnot, right? Like they.
Yeah, there's factions that get some things.
Yeah. But yeah, in the it kind of reminds me as well, War of the Ring, of Warriors, I think it was called, the RTS where you always bring up the giant angel that you can get,
yeah.
But it kind of reminds me of that in the sense that you pick it's almost like you pick a faction to go into throughout the course of the game.
Yeah.
And you don't have enough resources to go for elves and Huron, for example. You kind of pick one or the other.
Pick invisible elves, win game.
And I think that is neat, because that means you adapt to your opponent and you have a different setup each time.
Yeah.
And that is cool. Like you said, pick the invisible elves, but then if your opponent picks like the Haradrim or something, then they also have the invisible units.
Yeah, and so you need to get both need to get invisible scene units.
And
or Saruman.
Yeah, if your opponent gets Saruman, then he can mind control your invisible units.
Yeah.
Or he can rain fire down on them.
Well, so there's a function in the game which is you can actually, any unit can attack a ground, and so you can actually attack invisible units by telling them to attack ground, which is just incredibly finicky.
And I think you played it more recently. My opinion is that evil is stronger. Because evil has that invisible Haradrim lady, right?
She's not invisible.
Oh, I thought she was.
No, she's a support hero.
Okay, they've got Grishnak, who is a very good hero.
Grishnak's amazing.
And they've got Saruman, who can mind control units, very powerful. And
he can also crash the game.
They do have, like, the Haradrim are invisible or something, aren't they?
Yeah, the Haradrim warriors are invisible if you get them the upgrade.
Yeah. And the Uruk-hai have a longer range than line of sight or something weird. Oh, sorry.
The trolls.
Yeah.
Boulder trolls have longer range than line of sight. Uruk-hai have knockback with their arrows.
The Ulag-hai, that's what
Yeah, so the Uruk-hai have knockback with their arrows, which is really good.
And then I'm thinking, like, the good guys, I think Gimli's a good hero.
Gimli is amazing because he can instantly defeat a tower. And Legolas has a buff which he can give everyone speed, and his speed is equal to Grishnak's speed boost, but he can give it to a whole army and increase his attack speed.
And I think the
Aragorn can basically be immortal with his healing spell. And then Gandalf is really, really good at zone control with his Firestorm.
And he gets stronger if you lose him, which is...
Yeah, you can get Gandalf the White, which is better. I think that the Ent is a little bit stronger than the Balrog, but the other evil powers I think are better, because one of their powers is they can summon an Obelisk, and instead of their units taking damage, it takes damage. And the humans have like a few cool abilities, but the Obelisk is just so good.
Obelisk, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not certain. Like, there's certain balances. I think that the humans, you basically ignore their big units. Like, you don't get the bear warriors. Maybe you get one bear warrior, but not to turn to the bear because they have healing powers. And you ignore the Ents entirely because they're just too expensive.
The Huron, yeah.
Too much population space.
Yeah, I don't think the Huron are worth it. And I don't think the Lothlorien elves are...
No, the mage elves aren't worth it because they're too micromagy with their abilities.
And they take like 5 billion upgrades to get all their upgrades.
No,
and you have to use up like 2 camps of resources.
So when I did the good campaign, I basically just built elves. That's all I built. I built elves and maybe a few rangers just to catch invisible units. For the evil campaign, I just spammed their archers because the evil archers, they're not the Uruk-hai, just the orc archers, have flaming arrows. And if they hit a billion enough times, they kill billions just with tick damage, which billions are one of the most dangerous things.
Buildings, right?
Yeah, buildings.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, yeah.
And the humans can upgrade their towers into ballista towers, which are better than the orc towers.
But the good guys do get catapults, right?
No.
In the campaign.
In the campaign, yes.
Yeah.
They get a catapult in one time. There's maps with the catapult. Like, that's another thing that they did really cool, which I haven't noticed much in other RTSs, is game-changing capture points. Like, there's always trying to get the good position, like, ooh, I want to get the gold, or I'll capture the monument, and in 10 minutes I'll win the game. Whereas in War for Rings, I capture the monument, and it gives me a super weapon that will destroy the enemy base.
Yeah, Battle for Middle-earth, they're decent, like the capture points of Battle for Middle-earth. They're like bonus mines, or you can get Dunedain, or...
Yeah.
But they're not necessarily...
Decreases cooldown.
Yeah, or increases your generation of whatever that stuff is that lets you cast special powers.
Which lets you unlock the powers.
Yeah. But none of it is like a nuke that you can...
I mean, you can get the One Ring, which is another cool thing in Battle for Middle-earth, which is a nuke.
Yeah, well, if you're evil.
Galadriel can summon a hurricane.
Oh, you can give it to Galadriel as well.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like that should have a downside, to give it to Galadriel.
So there's actually a really cool... So the Edain mod. So in the base game, basically, if you get the One Ring, if it goes to evil, you purchase Sauron. If you give it to good, you get, instead of a Dark Lord, you have a Queen, Galadriel. Like, she has the breastplate, she's shouts those lines and wonders about. So the Edain mod, what it does is each faction has its own unique ring hero. So for evil, you get... you can actually hire him earlier, but you get him in a ghost form. So he's like this shadow that wanders about the map. And then if you give him the One Ring, he turns into the armored form.
Sauron, you mean?
Yeah, Sauron.
Yeah.
And then if your good faction, I think is Gondor, can recruit Gandalf, you can give Gandalf the ring. And then there's a 50% chance he becomes Gandalf the Black, or he rejects the ring and becomes more powerful without it.
Oh.
And so they have their own powers, and that's the same thing with... Saruman can also have different options of he can claim the ring and become Lord Saruman, or he can redeem himself. And so they have these cool little different stories and options. The goblins, I think if you get it, you recruit Smaug, and he is a beast. But
I found with like Battle for Middle-earth, it's more popular than War for Middle-earth.
Yeah.
Although it's
War of the Ring.
War of the Ring, but it's harder to get in some ways.
It's way easier now.
Oh yeah?
Yeah,
Is it on GOG now, or?
No, so there's a website dedicated to installing it. And you know how like you try to install difficult, like an old game, and like you have to go through all these hoops? This site is, alright, you click these installs, there's a little tutorial, you go through it, doesn't work, install this checker, run it, that'll make it work. If that doesn't work, install this checker, run it, and then that will make it work. It was one of the most straightforward experiences I've had with stuff like that.
Because yeah, we have the discs, and it was a pain to get them working, and then they have these overly sensitive copyright checks, which are a problem because we own the discs of the game, and they still go off sometimes, and you have to do stuff like you have to take the disc out while the game's running, and all sorts of weirdness. But I don't know if, like we were saying, War for the Ring, you said it felt unfinished. Yeah. Battle for Middle-earth, even with, or maybe the Edain mod is the problem. We
never played with the Edain mod.
I thought we have.
No, I installed it, but we never played each other with it.
I thought that's what we did against. Anyways, it as a story game, it's really good.
Yeah.
It's not very fun, like, to play against someone else. It's a grind. It's like playing.
Yes.
It's like one of those like Age of War, those tug of war games. Yeah. It's like one of those. It's just this very slow grind.
Yeah. So there's still YouTubers who play it, and if you look at their game length times, they're like 15 minutes long, and all the strategies in the game are beating your enemy before they can build up to make it a grind. Yeah. Like one of the top Uruk-hai strategies, so I guess Saruman, Isengard, is you get berserkers as fast as you can, because they have bonus damage versus buildings, and you just charge your enemy citadel with them. And that's all you do. And then the goblin strategy is build a goblin cave in your base, build a goblin cave next to your enemy base, and just start pouring out as many goblins as you can. Don't even care about investing in anything else. Just overwhelm them in the first 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah, because the problem we faced was, like, with the mid-game, Good's armies are way better than Evil's. But
now, Mordor's armies suck.
But Evil is able to build, like, infinite fortresses that...
yeah, they can build infinite fortresses.
Are a nightmare to take down.
Also, basic orcs are free.
Yeah. Yeah, so you expend all your units trying to get through their guys, and then they just get more.
And then they can shoot fireballs from their fortresses.
But then they can't invade your lands because their units suck. And
yeah, and one of the biggest problems I think with the game is actually the AI, which is they want to have this feature so it's ambushes, but you have to be very micromanage your units. So archers can shoot enemies further than the unit's aggression range. And so one of the problems, especially if you play against the AI, is the AI can micromanage everything. Whereas in normal RTS, your units would retaliate. They would fight back and defend themselves. Whereas in this game, I was playing against the AI, and I had a huge army of orcs, and I was building them up, and I was concentrating on something else, and I look back, and the army of orcs is gone, because one unit of Lothlorien archers was just standing slightly out of their detection range, plinking away at them, and they killed the whole army. It's kind of absurd.
That reminded me, I saw a new RTS that's coming out. It's a single-player RTS, so it's like their Billions.
Yeah.
But the idea of it, I think, could be turned into a multiplayer or like full-blown RTS. You only control one unit. You control the king, basically. He rides around on a horse.
Yeah.
But the way he works, it's more like he's your mouse.
Yeah.
Like, so he goes over and he puts a building here, and he...
That was sort of what we were talking about, having a general.
But it just made perfect sense to me. You don't have to do anything fancy with the general. Just have your mouse be the general.
Yeah.
And you can, like, hover over a building, build a building here, and, like, give your workers orders to build here.
Yeah.
But, of course, you can't just click around the map because you only have your general, and he can only move so fast.
Yeah.
And so your mouse is just your general. And also, you can't run through an enemy army because it's dangerous.
Yeah.
And now scouting, I guess you'd need a different way to do scouting. You'd have to say, like, go northeast and return.
Yes. T90 recently played against his editor, the first-person Age of Empires 2. So there's a first-person mod.
Okay.
And it's called a mod. It's like completely remaking the game. And so you actually have to run around as like a little king with a sword.
So it is that same idea.
Yeah, and you're in first person. It's really janky. But you build buildings, you can climb up inside them, get better line of sight. And
that's neat. So was the Viper good at it? Like, did his skills carry out?
It wasn't Viper. He's playing against his editor. It's T90 versus Hardy.
Okay, so was T90 good at it? Did his skills carry
He was okay. The first video, Hardy won, but the game crashed partway through, so they didn't keep that recording. So the second one, I think he did beat Hardy eventually. But I think he beat him because the game literally broke on his editor's side. Some of the skills sort of transfer, but it's a very different kind of game. Like the knowledge of I need to build these buildings, I need to get good unit composition, I need to give them armor upgrades, all of that sort of stays there. But other things do miss, and you're missing a lot, like you can't build walls and various things.
The King's Order came out recently. I haven't played it yet, but that's the game where you're just sitting in a tent and you get stuff. It's an RTS, but you're just in a tent and you get messages like, there's people on the hill, go over here. And it's got like, I think mostly positive, like it's just above mixed reviews. But
reminds me of one of my favorite Yogscast videos where when Total War Warhammer 1 came out and they had Lewis, I think, versus Duncan. And how they did it is it was a 3v3. So Lewis had commands of Hat Films and Duncan had several other people. And so they were sitting in a room observing the game in observer mode. And then Hat Films was in a different room, and they'd run into the room where Lewis was, and he'd give orders what he wanted to happen in the battlefield, and then Hat Films guys would run back to their own computers and do those orders on the battlefield that Lewis gave them for the grand strategy. And so it's like running back first. What do you want, sir? It's like, all right, we need to bring the cavalry up to charge. It's like, all right, I'll get that done, and then run off.
Yeah, that's cool. Doesn't Heroes and Generals, is that the name of the game?
Heroes and Generals is a bit like that.
The RTS where
it's kind of a RTS.
Yeah.
It's one person is the commander, and then everyone else is playing a first-person shooter.
Yeah.
And so they basically, we'll reinforce here, and we'll...
So all your objectives in a normal RTS are actually created by a person that's trying to win at the same time. Yeah.
There's several games like that, but those are a really cool concept. I do like those.
But yeah, making it a sort of single player or something equivalent to that is neat as well.
Well, there's a feature I forgot about that Total War Shogun has. I haven't clicked on it because it'd give me troubles, but whenever you do a battle, you can click a CD button next to the battle, and it'll look for someone who wants to do an online match against you where they'll take control of the AI instead. So basically, when you're in the multiplayer lobby of Shogun, you can click on Q for player versus player battle. And then you sit there and wait for someone who's playing the campaign to click on the...
That's neat.
Yeah, and so then they'll take control of that army.
Isn't there, I think it's HD feature for Heroes of Might and Magic? Or no, Heroes of Might and Magic 5 does this, right? Where you can play the AI for all the battles.
Yeah, so you can do that in the hot seat.
Yeah. Yeah, so they'll let you just take over. Now, it does give you a hint of what your opponent is using, but it's neat because that way they can't just cheese the AI. They actually have to deal with a smart opponent. And I saw one I really liked. It was Small Ant played Pokemon, but all the enemy trainers were played by the world champion of Pokemon.
Pokemon's so weird.
So that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I played a game recently. You know the game Journey? It's like the little people going through the sand. They have like the long, skinny people in the red robes, and they're like sliding through sand. Gets all these awards all the time. Came out.
I know what the cover of the game looks like. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was me as well. So 2014, it came out. Got all these awards. Everyone says it's amazing. And you look at whenever anyone talks about it on YouTube or whenever you hear about it, you see a picture of the cover art, like you said. You see the sand and the person. You watch gameplay, you just see like something sliding through a dune, and you're like, okay, so what's the game exactly? And so I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to try this game. So I bought it, and I've been on this binge right now because I owe myself, Jordan Peterson style 2 rewards, right?
Yeah. So
I was like, I'm going to get 2 games, and so I have bought 12 games at this point and refunded 11 of them.
Yeah.
I bought Hollow Knight, I bought Potionomics, I bought what's another game that would make people upset with me? Quite a few. Oh, Rabby Reeby. It's that Metroidvania with the little rabbit girls.
Okay, I don't know it.
Okay, it's one of those games where people are like, oh, you gotta play it, but don't look anything up, but you really gotta play it. It's not good. Well, the combos in it are very satisfying. It's like Smash Bros. In a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll go into my Hollow Knight review later. So, I got Journey. And I was like, okay, what is this game? I've never known, and it gives me Undertale vibes in the sense that everyone's like, you've got to try it, you've got to go in blind, you just have to experience it for yourself, it's really good. And it makes me hate it, right? Because I'm a hipster at heart. I'm like, so I buy this game and I'm ready to hate it. I'm like, stupid, whatever, this game. And it's got cutscenes in it and stuff, so you start in a desert, and there's a cutscene of you looking at a mountain, and like, okay, oh boy, a cutscene. So then you can walk through the desert, and you're just trudging through sand, and you're very slow. And so I decide, and there's this giant mountain with a beam of light on it, like right there, right?
Yeah.
So I thought, I'm going to go the opposite direction. So I turn around, start walking the opposite way. The wind picks up until my character goes like flying backwards and tumbles over themselves. It was kind of funny, but they're tumbling over themselves in the sand. So start slowly trudging towards the obvious landmark, because obviously the game kind of funnels you into a linear path. So it's like, okay, so it's a linear walking simulator or whatever. You get to the thing, and it teaches you that you can meditate, and then this giant white thing looks at you, and it like leans over and looks at you. And okay, and then it kind of uses hieroglyphs to tell you go to the mountain, basically.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I kind of got that. There's a big light on the mountain. So you just trudge through the sand. If you get to a tall dune that's steep enough, you can kind of slide down the dune so it's slightly faster.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, this is fun. I'm just trudging through sand. But then there's, what are those things called? They're like Japanese demon seals. Omori?
Just Demon Seal, Purity Seal.
Yeah, I think they're called Omamori or Omori or whatever. But you know what I'm talking about, right? Those they're like little paper seals.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of them fluttering around a bin that's buried in the sand, and you go over to them, and they will wrap around. They will go into your scarf because you have a little scarf.
Yeah.
And your scarf will start glowing down its length a little bit, and then you're able to jump higher, and it drains your scarf, and like you can fly basically for a little bit, and then it drains your scarf, and you fall back down, and then you need to go back to the seals, and they'll recharge your scarf. It's like, okay, so you have a few movement options. So it's still very slow going, but at least over the bigger hills you can flutter up a little bit, go along. And then you get to the first sort of gameplay area. And I realize, this is a 3D platformer like Mario. This is like what was the first Super Mario world called? Super Mario 3D? Maybe it's just called Super Mario 3D. Anyways, Mario 64.
Yeah.
So it's basically Mario 64, but you can't move because there's sand everywhere and there's not many movement options. And there's like this broken aqueduct that you have to cross. And so there's these great big ribbons in the sand. And you're able to make a little chirping noise like, woo!
Yeah.
And if you do that, it makes the ribbons glow a little bit. And so you have to stand next to the ribbon, make the whole ribbon glow. And then the ribbon dissolves and it repairs a bit of the aqueduct.
Yeah.
And you can... There's also these little glowing white globules around the map. And if you go to them, your scarf gets a little bit longer. So then you can charge up more seals into your scarf so you can fly for a little bit longer. So it's like, so it's sort of a loop of you make your scarf longer so you can fly to a higher ledge where you can get things that let you get to another glowing thing that makes your scarf even longer. And okay, so it's kind of a satisfying, just solve everything, bing, bang, boom, and then you're flying, moving super fast. But there's not really any fancy movement options or anything, right?
Yeah.
Playing it. And so I complete the aqueduct, and I go across, and I think, okay, I'm probably going to refund this game, but I'll just go for a little bit longer. So walking along, and you get to the next world, because it's kind of segmented into like 5 worlds. It's a very short game. It's like 2 hours long.
Yeah.
And now, before I continue, there's not really spoilers for the game, but if you really want to experience it yourself, who's listening, or you, I will say, go do that. It's a 2-hour game. Just set aside 2 hours, play it all in one go. I think it's better in one go. Do that, and then you can listen to this. But otherwise, I'll continue. And if you want me to stop and...
No, continue.
Okay. So...
I am also what you would call the hipster.
Yeah, but
I am a hipster in a different way. This makes me want to play the game less.
Okay.
So far.
Okay.
What you've described.
Yes, well, it sounds pretty boring so far, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's satisfying, it's pretty, there's nice music, you can make a little chirping sound. You're like,
so, in my review of the game Valley, one of the things I pointed out is there's a thing that I find very important in video games, which is a video game needs to present itself to you. It needs to let you know what you're getting into. And it needs to do that in the first 5 or 10 minutes of the game.
Everything I've talked about has only been about 15 minutes so far, to be fair.
So, in Valley, you start the game, like, you go through a cutscene, you walk, you get the power suit, you can start running and jumping, and you get to the gameplay of Valley right away. And it lets you know that this gameplay is fun. And it also hints at what's going to come. It delivers that brilliantly. And there's quite a few games that deliver that brilliantly. Like, even Half-Life. You start Half-Life and you're stuck on the rail, and that lets you move about, so that's interesting. You have these movement options. And even in Half-Life, you don't start the combat right away. You get to see the hijinks of the Black Mesa facility. You get off, you walk down the corridors, you can make the microwave explode. Like, the game lets you know there's going to be hijinks and weird stuff.
No, I think the best way to do it is the JRPG style, like Persona 5, where you take about 12 hours before you stop doing the tutorial and let the player actually experience the game. And
no.
And then you go. Or
even Pokemon is actually
Pokemon's
brilliant.
terrible. Well, Pokemon sometimes is like 10-hour tutorials at the start.
So, Pokemon Red.
Yeah.
Or Fire Red, because I haven't played Red. So, Pokemon Fire Red, you start the game.
Yeah.
You're told, go to Professor Oak.
Yeah, he's not at home. And so then you just wander about lost until you walk into the grass, and then, yeah, he runs into you. You get your Pokeball, and then he says, can you deliver this thing to Pallet Town for me? So you slowly trudge towards Pallet.
No. You get the Pokeball, you battle your rival.
Yeah.
So you battle Butthead.
And then you slowly trudge to the next town.
You know what the game is. You know what Pokemon is after you battle Butthead.
And you get attacked a bunch of times. You get there, and then they say, "Okay, cool. Can you bring this back to Professor Oak?" And so you bring the package. You slowly trudge back to Professor Oak, and he's like, "Oh yeah, thank you."
So you know what the game is.
Here's the Pokeballs that are the main part of the game. And then you're like, okay, now I can play. Then you run back to the town, and there's an old man in your way, and he's like, I want coffee. And you can't go any... And that is the best... This is the best in the game.
Isn't Silver the best?
Well, I mean, the tutorial... Silver's identical, basically, at the start. But that's like the shortest tutorial of the... Yeah. No, yeah, I do think Soul Silver is probably the best in the series.
Yeah.
But just in terms of how... I think Pokemon has a bad opening.
Okay.
But you're right, that it does at least give you a taste of the battling right away.
Yeah, it also lets you know what the game is. There's a lot of slow trudging back and forth.
But you don't get Pokeballs right away. You don't get the running shoes right away.
No.
And I don't even think Red has running shoes, possibly.
No, Fire Red does.
Yeah, Fire Red does, but I don't know if Red does.
Sorry,
okay.
I guess I've been playing Infinite Fusion.
Well, Infinite Fusion, what you do is you set it to ×5 speed, and then you can actually...
So actually, no, you're right. On retrospect, Pokemon doesn't have good intro.
Like, it's not terrible, but
it's not terrible, yeah.
It's not...
But I think that intro is actually very important.
Oh, yeah.
If you look
this is true in writing as well.
If you look at YouTube videos...
Yeah, everything.
If you look at Steam, one of the things you can do is you can look at games and see how many people have gotten the achievements.
Yeah, it's like the very first achievement. If 50% of the people have that achievement, you need to change the start of your game.
Yeah.
That was Potionomics. Like, they're like 95% of people have the first achievement, which you get for playing through the opening intro. So it's like, okay, fair enough. You know, someone buys it by accident. That's probably about 7%.
Yeah.
And then you look at, like, doing the first 3 quests, it's still about 95%. They're not losing people.
Yeah.
That's good. You look at, what was the game I was playing? It's like Noita or something? It's like, they have, like, this really difficult achievement, and it's like 75% of players have it. Like, they have amazing retention. It's ridiculous.
My brain's drawn a blank on Noita.
You're a little witch that, it's like the powder games, but you're a little,
oh, yes, that game. Yeah, Noita.
You're a little witch that casts spells. Yeah. That game has, like, crazy high retention.
Yes.
And when I was playing Hollow Knight, it was probably about average. Like, you lose about 10% every... I think the first boss, it said, like, 80% beat the first boss or something. Yeah. Which, the first boss you fight in about the first hour, so that's pretty good, actually.
I should check what Elden Ring has. Because it was a popular... Elden Ring was popular despite being a Souls-like, because Souls-like to that point was only Souls players played it. But everyone played Elden Ring. So I'm curious if there was a drop-off from the Souls-like difficulty of, like, getting to the second boss or not.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see. I imagine, like, that's almost a different thing. That's players being like, okay, this isn't for me. Like, it's different from not getting hooked, I think.
Yeah.
So you want, if they have, like, the first 2 or 3 achievements, but then, like, half of them leave, then that's probably means this is a good game, but not everyone likes it, right?
Yeah.
And I think Hollow Knight I was playing. Yeah, I don't know what it seemed like. It stayed like it's a very slow decline.
Yeah, but even on the hook for like you said, writing, what was it? Name of the Wind.
Yeah,
has that amazing opening.
What's the opening Name of the Wind, like with Quoth and the
in?
Yeah. Well, I think forget like even just an interesting setup. You want something like, I think Dresden Files does this perfectly, where the first paragraph of the first book is, "My name is Harry Copperfield Blackstone Dresden. I am a wizard. I do blah blah blah. Love potions are not allowed. Parties are extra.
Yeah.
Conjure by my name at your own risk. I am there when things bump in the night." And it's like, okay, I don't know. I'm ready. Like, this is.
Yeah.
I think it's actually super simple. All you have to do is start your book with "My name is" and a little explanation of who they are, and it's so powerful. The person's immediately. Or you start with, there was one book I was reading. I can't remember exactly how it went, but it was basically, guy was like, "You just stabbed me." It's like, "No, I didn't. I promised I wouldn't stab you." And he's like, well, you've got like a fork sticking out of me. And the guy's like, "Well, yeah, I promised I wouldn't stab you with a knife." But it was something like that. And you're like, "Oh, this is funny." I mean, like, it was well written. I can't remember it exactly right. But it was like, "Oh, this is funny." And that book, I didn't like that book. I read about...
What the dickens?
But that book, I didn't like that book. But I read about half of it just because of the strong intro, right? Yeah. Because I was like, this intro was so strong, I'm still in it. Like, even though it's going downhill, I want to keep going because that intro hooked me so much. Whereas something like The Assassin's Apprentice, or I assume The Ranger's Apprentice, has a very slow opening where the guy's like 5 years old and he's brought to the inn, and it doesn't describe the characters at all. It's like, it was raining out when when the guardsman knocked on the door. They answered it, and there was a 6-year-old boy, and he said, "Who are you?" And so, "I'm Fitzchivalry Farseer." And
I don't remember the intro to Rachel's Parents, but it's probably something like that.
But it's this very slow. I think passive is kind of the right way to say it. It's not about. It's about the scene, right? It's about. Yeah. They're saying it's raining. Like, a lot of books start like this, where they say it was raining, it was stormy when this happened, and when the man walked up to the door, it's like, I don't know who these people are. I don't know why they're doing this. I don't care why they're doing this. My own book, No Limb Can Bear, starts this way, where you're like, I don't know who these people are. I don't care why they're doing this. It's like, where's the hook? What's bringing me into this, right?
Yeah. If
I had started one chapter later with, like, Lord Glove going down the staircase, you're like, oh, okay, this is this hyper competent guy, but he seems very smart, but he acts very strange. There's these guards doing these funny things. Then you're like, okay, I'm interested in this world. What's going on? But instead, I start with, like, now it's not terrible necessarily. I mean, toot my own horn. It's not terrible because it's a guy saying, like, the Kineser's dead. You're like, someone's dead. What's a Kineser? What's going on? But
yeah,
you're a bit out there, right? You're like,
yeah,
I don't quite know what a Kineser is. Do I care if the Kineser's dead? Is that good or bad? I don't know who these people are. I don't know what the relevance of the situation is. Where if it was like, then the man's head exploded, you're like, okay.
Yeah, and there's different, like, some ways you can get the hook with the I am Harry Dresden, and that's a good way to get the hook. But other times you can get the hook by saying it was raining if you are like a master of words and make it so...
Yeah, if you read it and you're like, the words themselves are compelling me and I want to follow these along. Yeah. But I think my book I could have done better with something more like... my name is Lord I. Oh, you mean you mean Grady?
No, the little girl. It's like I.
Oh, the girl I. Yeah. Yeah, use her. My name is I, 9-year-old, orphan, sort of. Like long walks on the beach and servitude to old assassin men.
So, journey.
Yes. So, I go up the aqueduct, walk along these glowing things, and I'm playing around. So, there's a few things, like, if you hold down the woo button longer, you get a bigger bubble of, like, sound around you.
Yeah.
And it's visually represented. Like, you see this actual glow of light. And the longer your scarf is, the bigger your bubble is.
Yeah.
And any of those little omamori, or whatever they're called, those little paper seals that get caught in your bubble will actually fly towards you and recharge your scarf and also pick you up into the air a little bit.
Yeah.
So you can actually fly, sort of. If you make a sound, they fly to you, you go up, and then you make the sound again, and then when they leave, they come back while you're still in the air, and then you can sort of just rise up in the air with them. So there's like, okay, there's a couple techniques. You can slide down the slopes a bit. Okay, I'm kind of getting the hang of it. And when you're on the ribbons that connect the aqueduct, you kind of fly across the ribbons, so you're moving slightly faster. So you're like, okay, so there's a couple. It feels a bit better to move here than in all the sand that's everywhere. But the game is like 90% sand.
Yeah.
You're going through all the sand. You're like, okay, it's a little bit better. So then I go to the next region. I go through this crevice in the sort of canyon around the mountain, the loading screen, go into the next area, and it's just this downhill of sand, and there's one of those boxes where all the little paper things are trapped in it. I'm like, okay, I'll go to that box, open it up, because you have to open the boxes, and when you open them, then the guys come out, the little paper things come out that recharge your scarf, so then you can fly over the sand better. So you kind of want to go from thing to thing if you don't want to just slowly charge through the sand.
Yeah.
So, okay, there's a box right there. So I'll head towards it. So I start walking towards it, and then another one of those little red journey people, like me, I see them pop up from behind it, and they make a sound, woo, and it opens, and a flying carpet comes out. And then they walk off, and the flying carpet follows them, and I'm like, I want a flying carpet. Because now a lot of people don't realize this when they play the game. It's a multiplayer game. But it doesn't say it's a multiplayer game anywhere, and people tend to think that these are NPCs. Like, a lot of people have said, I thought it was an NPC. I don't know why they think they're NPCs, because no one is that good at making NPCs, right? Like the way the people are moving, you're like...
So, captcha keys?
No?
So, it's like, prove you're human, click this checkbox?
Oh yeah, captchas, yeah.
Yeah. So, do you know how the simple captcha works?
It's based on the movement of your mouse or something, right?
Yeah, you do things only humans would do, because AI would just go sick to it, or like sometimes they load and they pause for a second, or you can't click them exactly right, they do that on purpose. They're tracking your mouse the whole time to see if you're human. And so that's just something interesting on that. You made me think that,
yeah.
Oh, these guys are AI. Like, you can't make AI.
So I was half expecting the other... It's kind of like Dark Souls, right?
Yeah.
People will... I don't know if Elden Ring does this or not, but people will kind of drop in and drop out of your game. You'll see shadows of them.
Yeah.
You don't... I actually only recently played Dark Souls online. Like, I've been playing it offline the whole time. I played it online. I was like, oh, wait, there's, like, dudes walking around in my game. But you just see them die. Like, they don't actually help you or anything. They're just...
Yeah, so that's Dark Souls. They're ghosts of people, so it's basically to let you know how people die.
Yeah, and I think they can also invade your world if they have the right items.
They can invade your world if they have the right items. For me with Elden Ring, whenever someone invaded me, they get kicked out because my connection was so bad. Like, getting invaded can be bad because they can kill you and you lose all your souls. But invaders, I just had to run in circles long enough, and the invaders would start like teleporting around, and then they'd crash out of my world, so I could avoid all invaders.
So the So I was expecting to see other players in the game because I knew about this thing, which is kind of a slight spoiler, but it's one that most people that know about the game know that it's multiplayer. And also, your computer kind of needs permissions to...
yes.
So yeah, if you haven't gone off yet, because I haven't really said any spoilers yet, make sure you are online when you're playing it because it is a multiplayer game. Like, you can play it single player, but it kind of defeats the point. So, but I was like, okay, I expected there to be other instances like Dark Souls in the world, so whatever. So I go down to the bin and do my little woo sound so I can get my own flying carpet. No flying carpet comes out. Like, you bastard. There's only one flying carpet and he has it.
Yeah.
So, and flying carpet, it's kind of like a rolled up bundle of papers that like flies around and follows him. It's like a little pet dog almost. So I want that. So I start chasing him down. So I want that flying carpet thing. So I run towards him and he's trying to solve some other very simplistic puzzly thing.
Yeah.
In a different region. So I run over and I try to call the thing to me, and it doesn't really work. And but what I discover is that when I make a sound, like I do the call, and it touches their scarf recharges. And when they do a sound and it touches my scarf, my scarf recharges. And if our characters are next to each other close enough, both our scarves recharge. And it is so simple and it is so brilliant. That defines the rest of the game, and that makes it one of the greatest games I've ever played.
So it's a prisoner dilemma?
No, it's not at all. It's like there's no negative to help.
I know, it's without the negative, but
it's basically online interaction perfected. Like, it's an only positive online experience. And like, this guy, if you separate, they disappear from your game. But the next guy I ran into, we stuck together for the entire game. And there was like, there's perfect moment. There's these scary monsters in the game, and they like devour your scarf. And so I was like, whoa. And so we get past them. We're like, yeah, but there's no chat in this game. There's no UI in this game.
Yeah.
You only see the image of your character walking on the screen. So it's very pretty in that sense. There's no UI whatsoever getting in the way of anything.
Yeah.
But there's also no like chat. There's no way to communicate with the other person. There's no name tags. There's no there's no floating text in the world anywhere.
Yeah.
It's just you and this other person walking in the world. Which means to communicate, you have to do things like, okay, we got through the scary section, so you just kind of like walk up beside them and like give them a friendly nudge, and you're like, or you make a sound, you're like boo boo, and they're like boo boo, and you go through these sections. Now, of course, you're trying to beat this game, right?
Yeah.
So, but you walk up and there's like this cavern full of these giant jellyfish and these crystals, and you stop and look, and of course they're playing the game, so they're gonna walk off. But instead, they stop and they stand with you and they look around too, and the end of the game, you're climbing the mountain and it's snowy, and the snow drains your scarf as you go. And if your scarf is fully drained, then it starts burning, and that means that like you run out of scarf, right? Because it just gets dissolved as you go up. But if you stand next to each other, it doesn't burn. It starts refilling again. So you're working together to get through this snowy section, and there's like gusts of wind that come down, and they blow you back further than you've traveled. So you have to hide behind rocks, and the rocks are scattered about such that you could probably skip a rock or two and like get twice as far.
Yeah.
But we were walking with the other person, so you could either jump ahead and hide behind a rock on your own, but then your scarf's going to burn, and you could like try to rush ahead of them. But instead, you might just wait and wait for them to come to you, and you're like, oh yeah, you're doing it selfishly, but it doesn't feel selfish. It feels like you're like, we're in this together. And like, if one of them, they're accidentally a little bit out of the way, right? The wind hits them, they go back to the start of the map.
Yeah. And
it took you like 10 minutes to get there. You're like, hey, I'll just finish the map. I'm like 2 minutes from the map. But instead, you walk back and you help them get all the way back up. You're like, no, this guy helped me get 90% of the way there. I'm going to go back to the start, and I'm going to help him get to the end, and we're going to do it together. And at the very end of the game, you can just finish the game, but you can also finish the game together. And it's not like there's a choice that pops up. It's just, you can wait, right? You can just... Yeah. So you like, right near the end of the game, we're walking through this light, and if one of us got like 2 steps ahead of the other, they'd stop and wait, and then the other one would go. Yeah. And then, like, if we just desynced a little bit, the other one would stop and wait and stop and wait. And it creates this bonding experience. You're like, this person's my friend. This person's my lover. This person's my, like, this person's everything, right? Like, you just become connected with this person.
Yeah.
And I think it says a lot that the very top post on the Journey Steam forum is just people saying, it's just this saying thank you to those who journeyed with me. And it's just hundreds of pages, so thousands upon thousands of posts of people saying thank you to, like, the Legend 27 and Pussy Slayer 6ix9ine for journeying with me. And we stuck through it all. We made it to the end. We meditated together on the cliffs of the ocean, whatever. And it's this beautifully positive experience.
So it's interesting what you say is this only positive multiplayer game.
Yeah.
So the main draw of games like Sea of Thieves, DayZ, Conan the Exile, like those sort of things, is that you can interact with other people in those worlds. And they can be positive or negative interactions. My favorite parts of Sea of Thieves is I usually play it solo. So I'm going around on a little sloop, boating solo. And I'll come across usually a group of Eastern Europeans, because apparently US West servers are better than Eastern Europe servers for them.
Yeah.
And they can speak English. And even though we're not playing together and it would be profitable for them to shoot my ship and steal my stuff, instead they invite me onto their ship. And we play music together with like the music things, and we go around. And then even though I'm not a part of their crew at all, they will do piracy together. So we'll see another guy with a ship. They'll open fire on us, and so we'll have a crew of 5 instead of the normal 4. It gives us like a bit of edge, and we'll fight back. And then it's like, all right, we're going to sign off soon. And we'll land. It's like, take 50% of the treasure. So there is options where you can like join your ships together, and so you get a bonus for like delivering treasure together. But quite often these people, they don't care about doing that bonus. They're just like, yeah, whatever treasure you deliver, that's yours.
Yeah.
And that's like some of my favorite moments of Sea of Thieves, is just playing the hurdy-gurdy randomly, and then a group of Russians adopt me into their crew, and we play together. And then even one time we were playing and I got killed, and they found me again. Like, they went looking for my boat, found me to pick me up again.
Yeah, and that's, like, yeah, it is the same experience. Mm-hmm. And that's why the spoilers for a game like Journey or Sea of Thieves aren't really spoilers, right? Because it's like, so there's other people and you have a time together. But why people don't want to talk about them is because they want you to go into the world of Sea of Thieves, let's say, even, or less so for Sea of Thieves, but still, or Journey, with no expectations, and discover that you and the other person are kind, even though you didn't go in there like, oh yeah, this is the game where you have to be kind to the other person, right?
Yeah.
But you end up being kind anyways.
I think one of the really interesting things about Sea of Thieves is, so you can join different factions. Each time you join the game, you can join a different faction. And there is the Reaver faction, which basically you attach a flag to your ship saying, I'm a Reaver. And while you have that flag, if you kill other people's ships and gather their stuff and then sell it, you get bonuses. And people can see your Reaver rank. And I've read on forums and even experiences, most times when there's a Reaver ship on a map, like everyone can see it, other people's boats will swarm the Reaver and kill them, then leave again, so they can keep piracying without killing each other. Like, the piracy in Sea of Thieves, people who go into it to pirate other people usually get targeted. Like, the main piracy happens opportunistically, or you're boating along, you see a guy in a solo sloop, you have a crew of like 4 friends, and you're like, oh, we could ruin his day and steal his stuff. Should we do it? Yeah, it's funny enough to do it. And that's the piracy. Like, people who go into Sea of Thieves like, oh, I'm going to be a pirate, I'm going to attack other people. Unless they know what they're doing, they're going to have a bad time.
That's what it does, is it speaks to something that's true of humans, right? Like, you look at, I don't know, like the Berber pirates or even the Yemenis pirates to a degree. You have all these nations that are competing with each other, but you have this massive Somali pirate problem or Berber pirate, and nations come together and they crush the pirates, and then they go back to their privateer. And the privateers used to, like, talk to each other. Like, Sir Francis Drake might talk to some famous French dude, right? They're enemies, but it's like we're in it together in in the grand scheme of us being humans that have a code of honor of some sort.
Yeah, well, so one of the other things about Reavers, which is a big risk, is, like I said, your Reaver flag's on the map. So if a random crew of dudes boats up, shoots you, steals your stuff, and then they boat away, it's like, oh, that sucks, they killed me. If a Reaver comes and kills you, and then boats away, you respawn onto that same world, and you see the Reaver flag. And now, you're on a ship with nothing to lose. And so you go to a fortress, and you gather some gunpowder kegs, you load your ship up with them, and then you find the Reavers and just ram them with your ship and blow it up. Because it's like, right, this is what I'm doing for the rest of the evening, I'm hunting the Reavers.
And yeah, that's one of those mechanical decisions that the creators of Sea of Thieves made that allow you to do what you want, but they encourage you to, what would it be, to create your own order.
Yeah.
To take, because there is no law that says you have to be this way, but people make it anyways. And it's good that they give the Reavers bonuses, because the point isn't to punish the Reavers.
Yeah.
The point is to let people enforce order.
Yeah.
And so I think Journey's the same, where they could have made it impossible to play solo or something, and you have to work together. But it's no, you don't have to work together. It's just you can join together with someone for an experience and go with them. And oh yeah, that's the other thing about Journey. At the very end of the game, after the final cutscene, I guess you could call it, plays, it says people who journeyed with you, and then it shows the name of every single person you met.
So you get their Steam names.
Yeah, so then you could contact them if you wanted, or just say thank you for the time on the...
That's cool.
Yeah. And now it's a variable experience, right? Because there's 40 people like all-time high in the last week, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a 10-year-old game at this point.
Yeah. It has heyday.
Yeah. Thing. So you're going to run into like one other person when you play, basically.
Yeah.
Or maybe two, like I did. But you're not going to have like a party of 4 of you going through. Or...
I was just thinking like a Twitch streamer does it, and they get a squeaking horde of little oohs with them.
Well, there's probably...
a limit of how many companions.
Well, no, that probably does happen where people play it like on a live stream and other people join in. So it probably does happen. I'm not sure what they do. Like, I don't know how many people are allowed to journey together or not. All the achievements for the game are really interesting as well. So, because they're kind of there to make you realize how you're supposed to play and to keep playing.
Yeah. So,
for instance, the first achievement is just like get to the first world or whatever it might be. And then the second achievement is that I got is complete the game with another person.
Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of achievements I don't have. So one of the achievements I don't have is called I don't remember what it's called, but basically it says play the game again, just win the game again after a week of not playing the game at all.
Huh.
So it's sort of you're not meant to just keep playing and playing and playing, right? You're meant to sit back, think about it, and then pop in every once in a while and just go on another journey.
Yeah.
Because the game is designed to be cyclical as well. You start where you end, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right? So, but it's meant to be like you don't just jump back in. You sit back, you take a moment and then you get the achievement if you wait a week. And then another one is you sit and meditate with another player for more than 10 seconds. So if you just sit, because if your character, well, apparently, I don't think I ever did this. If your character like doesn't move for like a while, they just sit down.
Yeah.
But I never even did. But I did find if you run in a circle fast enough in deep enough sand, they fall over when they sort of, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But, and then an achievement might be like stick with someone from the very first world to the end of the game. And another one was fly over the broken bridge, which I don't even know where that is, but or stand on top of like a bridge with another person. So they're all very much like, and a lot of them are stuff like that, where fly over the broken bridge, find the secret cave in the crystal cavern. And so they're achievements that are very difficult and weird. And the point is that you have a reason to play the game again. Because, like I said, it's a very simplistic 3D platformer. Yeah. But this way, you go back and you're like, I'm going to find this thing again. And you find someone else, and they're with you. So you're like, I'm looking for the secret crystal cave. And they're like, why aren't we just going to the exit? And they're following you around. And they're like, oh, cool, there's a thing. And so you kind of... And the neat thing as well, those things that make your scarf longer, right? You don't get all of them because they're hidden everywhere, right? So you can't find them. So when you run into someone, like the guy I ran into, his scarf was twice the length of mine. So it's kind of like, this guy is an experienced journeyer. Hmm. Like he knows how to...
He's got a long scarf.
He knows how to journey, right?
Yeah.
This guy can fly. And that's the ethical... You know how I said, like, if you make a sound, it recharges their scarf, right? And I said if you hold it down, you fly. So you fly while making noises, you can fly forever. So you can work together to do, like, coordinated, like, flying through the map. Huh. So it's, like, very simplistic game that gives you like a purely positive experience. I think it's really neat. But I, you know, like I said, like 45 minutes in, I was like, I'm gonna refund this stupid game, and and then I was, oh no, this is actually really clever. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'd recommend. Well, it's kind of expensive for what it is, I think, in a way, but I'd recommend it all the same.
Certain games are for sales.
Yeah. And like I said, it's only 2 hours, so it doesn't take long to. And I don't know what it does if you know, because I knew that there was other players in the game, right? And some people thought they're NPCs, which I think is crazy. Like a 3D platformer, having an NPC that works at all is like unlikely, and then have one that's reactive to you is like, I don't think there's a game on Earth that does that.
Especially for a 10-year-old game.
Yeah, like I don't think there's a game on Earth that does that. Like that is way too advanced. So I don't know why people thought there were NPCs, but the fact that I said it's only a positive experience, you're like, well, now I have to, because I did stumble across. I didn't like this actually. There's like one of those fan forums online, you know, like whatever, it might just be called fandom. Like, you know, they have that horrible layout where it's kind of like Wikipedia but worse.
Oh yeah, no, fandom is evil Wikipedia. Yeah,
so they have one for Journey, and it had this great big list of rules of like things to do while you're on a journey. Like, you can't do this, you can't do this. You have, whenever someone does this sound or does it, you have to do this. Like, that's ruining the whole point of the game right there, right?
Yeah. The
point is that two strangers with no way to communicate, no knowledge of each other, are still interacting and loving each other. This is two random people. Like, I could have been playing with some random dude from like I could have been playing with a Hamas terrorist, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is really important. The United States, they were feeling online at the very least. I don't know about day to day, but from the outside looking in, their online discourse, left and right, at each other's throats, right?
Yeah.
Both of them sit down and play Journey, right? They don't know who they're playing with on the other side. This is that guy you scream at online all day, and you're loving each other.
Yeah, what you're saying there of the no communication besides that, I'd be interested in a Minecraft server that removes the text.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing. Like in Minecraft, you do the little crouching.
Yeah, you do the crouch. You twerk at people.
Yeah, because that used to be the thing, that right? Like when the Yogscast started Shadow of Israfel, they didn't have a way of talking to the NPCs.
Yeah.
And except for typing, but they didn't do that often. It was just a lot of like twerking at each other and following each other, because you see another human say that, look, I'm human, and you say, look, I'm human, just by doing the little twerk thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's not what any NPC is going to do. And you're like, I'm interested, and I want to learn about this. I want to follow the person.
Yeah.
And that's all it takes to form a bond with someone else.
Yeah.
And it actually made me wonder, like I've said before, I don't think you can have online friends. But it did make me reconsider that somewhat. I'm not sure now. Like,
you can have online friends if you're not allowed to speak to them.
Well, it's more people. Well, actually, in a way, because when you speak to someone, you're engaging. It's ideas engaging with ideas, right?
Yeah.
But when you're following them around in Minecraft or in Journey, it's your curiosity joining you to them.
Yeah. So when you type to someone,
there's not a human on the other end.
There's not a human on the other end, but also you are reading it.
Yeah.
And whatever emotions you're holding, whatever feelings you have, whatever interpretations you have, you're going to put on that reading.
But in Journey or Minecraft, you're getting a less filtered, like an unfiltered version in a way of what that person's doing.
You are getting what they're doing instead of what you're reading. So, like, reading what someone else has written, I understand Socrates' dislike of it.
Wasn't there some guy like Voltaire or something that said the purpose of writing is to create misunderstanding between people or something? Like, no, it's a Swedish philosopher who said that 95% of communication is predicated on misunderstanding or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something. Yeah. But yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, so you read something and you read it, whereas you're watching someone else do something instead. And like, even hearing someone's voice chat, I think, has a problem. If you're listening to it, but you don't see them, they're not actually doing anything, they're just speaking at you.
Now, if you had, like, so let's say, a runes.
Well, so that's actually VR.
Yeah.
So I've played in VR chat a bit. And I think the people I like most in VR chat are the people who don't talk. And it's because, like, you just interact, like, they don't have a mic or they're shy, they don't type, they literally interact just through body language.
You know what Journey, what game was closest to Journey in my mind? It was Sherwood Forest.
Yeah.
It was this MMO online that didn't have a chat. You couldn't talk to each other. And it was just this Diablo ripoff that was terrible in every way. Except that there was, like, 2,000 other, like, 12-year-olds on it.
Yeah.
And so...
Skiving off from school.
Yeah, or just, like, we were playing on the weekend, I think. But it was just this...
I played it at the school computer lab.
You had no way of communicating except, like, there was no interaction even, because if you kill a monster, that monster's still in their world, so they have to kill it separately, and then you grab loot separately, and so there's no interaction whatsoever, except...
Unless you go to the PvP zone.
Unless you switch... I think you can switch your color to, like, outside of the dungeon, and then you can start attacking each other. But when you switch to PvP colors, or whatever, however it worked, then you can attack each other, but that's the only interaction. However, this is apparently a decently common occurrence, but it was, like, the highlight of my time playing it. My friend and I were playing, and we created, like, a gang war just by gathering all the, like, green guys together and taking out everyone else. And then other people would switch to blue, and then suddenly you had a bunch of blue versus green, and then you had people switching sides. And it was this organic experience that arose simply from nobody able to communicate except in that they wanted to interact with each other. And that's probably how... That's how animals work. That's got to be how animals work, right?
I feel like this interaction is probably why MMOs are actually popular.
Yeah, but you don't even need the talking or anything, right? Yeah. Like I think, that feeling. That's probably what drives people to MMOs, is that feeling of, like, there's this spontaneity of humans being curious about each other and acting in harmony with each other. Yeah. This spontaneous order. And I think... I lost it. I don't know what I thought. Maybe that was the end of thought. But yeah, the spontaneous order arising. Yeah, so right, that's it. Animals. When you see a flock of birds fly together, why do they decide to join up with each other? Yeah. And I think the reason is because they're like, hey, I'm a bird, that's a bird. I want to follow them. I want to see what happens.
Yeah, when you see a group of dogs go on a ramble together.
Yeah, it's not like they sit down and talk. It's like... And you see dogs, like a dog walks by the fence, the dog gets super excited, and you're like, what's so exciting about that? You can't even interact with each other, right? But it's simply that pure feeling of, I am aware... It's almost a test of sentience, right? Like, I'm aware of that I am like this thing, and so that is exciting to see what this thing does in that world. Like, Minecraft used to really excite me, because you could be... Like, multiplayer Minecraft. Because you could be... and I went through a lot of work to set up servers and everything just to get it working slightly, right? But because multiplayer Minecraft used to be a whole nightmare. Yes. Yeah. It was just simply standing on a mountain and seeing someone else 2 kilometers away building a little hut. It's like, you're not interacting at all. It's just seeing someone else interacting with the world. Yeah. It was this beautiful experience of, like, look at that thing going on over there. And I think that is what the Yogscast, like, I think that was their rise to fame. Like, they didn't do the whole super enthusiastic talking to the viewer, like the guy that's called Gold Butter and all that. What was his name?
Sky Does
like Sky Does Minecraft. It was a different thing, right? It was like this you're getting one-on-one with this guy blasting in your face of, like, we're gonna do this, it's super exciting, it's hype. But the Yogscast was simply about, hey, there's someone building something on that hill over there. I don't have to talk to them. Like, they did their multiple points of view for a reason, I think. It was like, you pick your point of view. You don't have to see the others, in a way. You can just watch, oh, this is that event that happens in the background. I don't need to know anything about it. Like, you would hear, like, they'd switch onto the same channel, and they'd be like, on IRC chat, and they'd be like, the nuclear power plant on the other side of the map just blew up. And they're like, what? We have to go see. And they'd go over, like, I think one of the best Yogscast videos ever is when they're testing out that mod that adds all the missiles to the game. Yep. I think that was one of the best videos ever.
And they trigger the red matter bomb.
Yeah, like, but yeah, that one, and like the ones that repair the landscape, and like, I think that, and they always had their production crew was in the game as well, right? Like, fixing things, and they'd be like, okay, we're calling so and so, and you were never sure who these people were. They would never, like, talk about them really. It was just, oh, we're calling in Ben to fix the thing, and you're like, I don't know who this Ben guy is, but he knows the mod in and out, and he's come to fix it, right? Yeah. He's just some moderator guy, or he's the mod author himself, or whoever it might be. Yeah. And I think they were tapping into that magic of the recognition of the other over there.
No, I loved the series where you could watch Hatfield's perspective, and it was weird and gross. And then you could watch Duncan, Simon, and Lewis' perspective. Then you could watch Sip's perspective.
And it was fascinating because...
And then you could go to Rithian's perspective.
It was basically like 5 different series or 6 different series at once on because Minecraft's huge, a different world, right? On one big world.
Yeah.
And the question, I don't know if anyone ever asked this. I never did, but thinking about it now, it's really weird that they were all playing in the same world because the series weren't connected, right?
Yeah.
It's like, why are you all playing in the same world? But it's because there's something special. This is why Bethesda games are so popular, right? It makes you feel good to know, like, you might never interact with the NPC schedule system in Skyrim ever, right? But you sleep well at night knowing it exists.
It's even more than that. Me installing 100 mods with new locations, knowing that I might see only one of these new places, but they're there.
Or like, you might install a mod that it's like, if a monk is killed by a bandit, the bandit will cry because he killed a holy man. And this can only happen on like these months in the game under these circumstances, and it makes your game run 4 FPS slower. And you're like, yeah, but I need to know that that's and it's in a region of the game that you hate and you'll never go to. And you're like, yeah, but I need to know that it's happening.
Installing mod that adds 50 outfits, and all their stats are worse than ebony armor.
Yeah, but that's the thing with the Minecraft series where you're like, I'm never going to see Sips and Shin's point of view or Hat Film's point of view or whatever it might be, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that I know that there's a factory over there getting built, and occasionally you hear this massive explosion, and you have no idea what it was, you're like, I can sleep well at night because the world is bigger than it is. And I wonder if, like, human population is massive right now, right? But I wonder if there was like 50 million people, let's say, or 10,000 people. Yeah. You're walking through a hill far from your tribe, you've been on some trek, whatever. Maybe you just wanted to go on a vacation. Yeah. And you see another person, like, a kilometer or 2 away. And you're just like, whoa. And you wave at them. They wave at you. Then you go your separate ways. And you're just like, this world is beautiful.
Yeah. That's kind of a bit of that is why I like traveling to see architect and buildings. Is you go there, and you see this thing, and you sort of get to see the people that built it.
Yeah. Yeah, you see the hand that once crafted it.
There's an interesting thing, actually, on that of, I think a lot of people don't understand true decadence of a building. Like, it's tasteless decadence. Like, that's a common trope in books. Like, this building, like, they had no taste. It's just crammed full of artwork. It's not that good looking. They have in Kaif's Kane where they're in Governor of a Planet's house. And just like, there's all this art going on. And it's like, it's so gaudy. After I was in that castle in Netherlands, this castle is gaudy. Like, it's that sort of decadence. Like, every surface is carved. Like, you cannot look without seeing art. If you go into one of those buildings, it's not, this is so gaudy. It's like, this is the most amazing building I've ever been in. And it's like a feeling of just awe from being in it. Might be personality to personality.
And I think part of it might also be, like, if you see a totem pole in the woods, right? You're like, okay, this is one person made this 200 years ago. I can wrap my head around that, and I have that connection to that person. Right? You go into a room, like you said in the castle, you see, like, the culmination of 600 people's masterworks. You're like, it's so much, I'm just going to blank it out, and I'm not seeing any of it, right? Like, there's no connection to me for any of these people. And so it probably depends your mindset when you go into it and who you are. And like, because right now, we're sitting at a desk, right? Covered in all sorts of things. And look, these little pegs here for attaching, like, extending this keyboard, right? Yeah. It's a little wooden peg. Someone at some point made the decision to have these little grooves running along the length of the peg, right? Yeah. Like, this was probably done by a lathe, automatically maybe even, but it might have been done by like, it might have been someone at the lathe doing it, or it might have even been done by hand. Someone somewhere, like 50 years ago, was like, this is the way to make pegs for desks. And someone else was like, we need to source this steel from somewhere. Yeah. And someone else said, we should paint the steel white. And someone else said, we need to source this lumber, we need to process it, we need to glue it together. Like, the amount of... There's an XKCD about this where he talks about he gets overwhelmed looking at ordinary objects because he'll look at like a sink, right?
Yeah.
And be like, there was a 15-hour meeting where 2 people got fired and 1 person got in a fight because they were arguing about the curve of the sink's like interior slope or something, right?
Well, those how they're made videos, I really enjoy watching them. I think a lot of people do. Of just seeing this machine that produces objects, like especially how it's made when it's almost a purely automated factory. And you look at that and you think, if we lose this factory, we're not going to be able to make this item anymore. Like doing this by hand, like, I don't know if we can. But then you watch another how it's made, of like how surfboards are made. And it's like, okay, this should be simple. And it's a process all done by hand. And it's like the most complex thing in the world. And you're just like, or bowling balls. Like, how are bowling balls made? What? That's how you make bowling balls? This is insane. I thought it was just like you get a chunk of plastic and you drill some holes in it and it's heavy. It's like, no, there's so much more.
That's, the barbarians in a lot of media are depicted, they wear skins in their bone clubs, and that, cavemen as well. They have the skins and the bone clubs and whatnot. But why steel doesn't rust a lot of the time? It's because we dip it in fish oil. Like, I had that whole thing on vegans, right?
Yeah.
But, you can't use, like, metal, or you need to find, like, vegan metal, for instance. Because the depth of what you can do with animal parts is so much more than you'd think. Like shellac or the coating on jelly beans, that's like a secretion of insects.
Yeah.
And it's not all... It doesn't look like animal bits strung together, right?
Yeah.
It looks very refined. I used to, when I was a little kid, I used to think medicine and like herbal medicine were 2 different fields, right?
Yeah.
Because, and I thought, chemicals like artificial flavors, that sort of thing. It's like, where do they come from? Well, they're made in the lab.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? Well, wizards take powders and, like, I never really thought about it. Like, what does it mean to make something in a lab, right? And I think the best we can have, the most pure form of that child's idea would be, you have rendered down whatever into its elemental components.
Yeah.
And then you pick up those components and put them together into something new. But even rendering down to elemental components, like sulfur, okay, you go to like a caldera and you scrape sulfur out of a crack in the earth. There's your pure sulfur.
Yeah, it like even plastic. Like plastic is processed from oil. Has to be drilled. It has to be a lot of work has to go through it.
Yeah, there's no alien substance removed from the earth.
Have you seen videos of the oil drillers? Like they're shirtless, they're covered in mud.
Yeah.
And it's like that. Like I look at that job. Like they're constantly wet. They're covered in mud. They're straining themselves physically. It's like that is one of the hardest jobs on earth. Looking at that, like that is one of the most intense, high-skilled, only very certain people can do it kind of work. Like, those people actually have me in awe of them. Like,
yeah, well, it looks physically exhausting for sure.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, no.
I worked in a mineral processing lab for less than a week, and there's the wet lab and there's the dry lab. Mostly women work in the wet lab, mostly men work in the dry lab, and it's because the wet lab's easier. And they have such a high production turnaround that if you don't produce enough in the dry lab, they put you into the wet lab. And so I was actually probably at the point where I was probably going to go into the wet lab because I wasn't doing enough with the powders. I really didn't want to go to the wet lab because you're like constantly covered in mud, water spraying everywhere. You have to wear goggles on your face. And so water's constantly hitting those goggles and covering your eyes.
So you're telling me that you were almost about to be put into a room full of women covered in water and mud.
They're also wearing hazmat suits.
And you quit the job.
They're wearing hazmat suits and respirators. And goggles. Also, how much of a loser are you that there's all the other men on the site and you're the one man in the wet lab?
No. The other guys you are the... what's the animal that does it?
Cuttlefish?
Yeah.
No self-respecting man wants to be a cuttlefish.
You go in there but you say, no. I knew what I was doing. I could have been processing twice as much as the top guy in the dry lab, but why would I be in there with a bunch of guys? I'm like, you just gotta play yourself up a bit, you know. You've got to.
I'm not that psychopathic.
No, you don't have to be psychopathic about it. It's just you have a bit of humor, you have a bit of charm, and you've got a bunch of scantily clad women in soaking wet uniform.
Oh, it looks so miserable. I'm constantly covered in mud and water. I hate getting covered in water.
It's like
especially when I'm wearing clothes. I hate water so much.
Here I go off to the women's mud wrestling competition again.
The only thing I hate more than water is mud. And the only thing I hate more than mud is honey. Ugh.
You imagine you're some sort of like carny and you're just every day you wake up depressed because you have to you're like the ref for like a women's mud wrestling competition and
I mean, honestly,
I had to pull apart 6 women today. Got mud on my shoes.
Oh, so
one of the women grabbed onto me and had to change my shirt.
The other thing is these are women working at a mineral factory. So there is a sort of self-selection for the kind of people.
I was reading a psychologist's thing on like self-compassion. She was talking about the moment in her life where she went from happy to sad in the fastest amount of time. Was she went to some restaurant in Spain.
Yeah.
And the waiter, maitre d', like it was a very fancy restaurant, right?
Yeah.
And he came up to her and her friends, and he looked at her and was like, "You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen." And she, she was just like, "Whoa!" And he said in her accent, "You're the most beautiful woman I have ever seen." And she's like, "Whoa!" And he's like, "Come to the tables, please. Never shave your mustache." And she was just like, "Ah."
I did that to someone, and they are incredibly attractive.
With a mustache?
They are so attractive that their lip, even with their lip hair.
I think over the months and years, I've kind of got an idea of your ideal woman, right? It's just Terry Crews, right? Like, that's...
No.
You've just been describing Terry Crews this whole time.
How did I know you were going to say that? They were attractive despite the mustache.
Just like Hitler, huh?
So, this morning,
yep,
I got up and I was out with my normal tea. I had this different tea called it's some herbal tea that comes from Africa. It's like a root plant.
Woke up this morning,
so
got out of bed.
I can't remember its name at the moment, but it's like this
African tea.
Alternative tea.
Was already
led.
Took my brother's rifle, went up on a hill. Like cola?
I can't remember what it is, but it's an alternative tea. It's like meant to be like a green tea or Earl Grey, but it has no caffeine, so it's meant to be like this morning tea sort of thing.
So it tastes like tea, but it doesn't have caffeine.
No, it doesn't taste like tea. It kind of tastes like rotting dirt. It's like, when meat's like the smell of off meat.
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
I don't think that'd be good though.
Well, it's like that, but you mix it with a bunch of dirt, and then
and you drink this for some reason,
and then a little bit of like the tea flavor of Earl Grey, and then when you're really hungry in the morning, you wake up and you smell someone making coffee,
and you feel like ill.
Yeah. So that ill feeling, that's also a bit of the flavor.
Why would you drink this?
So, anyways,
okay.
I mixed some lemon juice with it.
Okay.
And make it sound really appealing. Right?
Well, the lemon juice sounds better than the other stuff. Yeah. Okay.
All that together, like all those horrible things together, though, it actually makes it work into not being completely unpleasant.
Have you ever had, what are they called? A foggy London or something? It's like a...
Yeah, it made me really sick.
Okay. So does it taste like that?
No.
Okay.
No.
London fog?
Yeah, London fog.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a London fog and it made me sick.
Okay.
Anyway, so I drank this stuff.
Yeah.
Because I've had it for a bit. And I suddenly felt incredibly tired, but not the tired of stayed up too late. It's more of the the pleasant, sleepy, tired sort of you're in bed and you're about to fall asleep, but you're not quite there yet.
Me and sleep don't get along so good. But maybe like you've done a hard day's work and you just want to get in front of the fire and
Or when you wake up in the morning and you have that moment of like no pain, like for a couple of seconds.
Like I kind of, like you put a fade on like you're editing a video.
Yeah.
That's like me going to sleep and me waking up. It's like the THX.
Yeah. Anyways, other people might know like this nice sleepy feeling.
Okay.
Or like you've done a hard day's work, and
sleepy and nice together don't really work for me. Like Harry Potter, he always talked about Madame Pomfrey's room made him sleepy, and I always thought that was a negative thing, but I think it might not have been. So yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, and when you feel the stiffness in your muscles, like your muscles have been tight for so long, and then you like relax a little bit, and then they feel sore afterwards, but it's your muscles actually relaxing. And it's it doesn't feel good, but it's like it's good, and so it feels good because it's good. Have you ever relaxed?
I mean, not in the terms you're describing. I may know the feeling described a different way, possibly. So
your muscles have been really tense for a long time, and you do a bunch of stretching.
But my muscles don't relax after stretching. Like they relax while stretching, right? Like you kind of feel the almost tearing sensation, and then they're more limber.
Yeah, it's not that. It's like you're actually relaxed. Like you sit down, it's like you're relaxing. You're still long enough to actually relax your body, and then you can feel all the pain that's there because the muscles are no longer clenched together and a constant.
Whatever you're describing doesn't sound pleasant. Okay, it sounds awful.
Well, anyways, so it's a good feeling to have your muscles. What I'm getting at is, I think drinking the tea relaxed me.
But you said it made you feel tired and sore.
Yeah, it relaxed me.
That's not relaxing. Relaxing is when your burdens are lifted.
Yeah, no, it made me feel like that.
You said tired and sore. Those are burdens.
Yeah, so it relaxed me.
No, like you want to be clear of mind and hale of body, right? That's where relaxation comes in. Like it's like
I think you don't know what relaxation
is. I don't think you do. You're like, "Oh, I had the most relaxing bed sores the other day." Like I was in bed for 14 hours and I got one the size of my thumb on my back, and I was like, "Oh
no."
I think I started sticking to my sheets.
No.
I've never been so relaxed before.
Well, maybe the maybe the obscure audience
when
who will listen to this in 100 years will know what I'm talking about.
When like your eye boogies like get on the sheet so much it gets stiff, and then it like kind of stays a little bit above your nose when you breathe out.
No,
and
not
you're
disgusting like that.
You have this little dome of like CO2 about your mouth, and you're like, oh yeah.
Stop describing narwhal-like pleasures.
That's what you're doing.
No, I'm describing the release from that. It's like
no, you're not. You're saying I was tired and sore, and I was drinking rotting flesh, and I felt great.
No, it's rotting food tastes completely different than the smell.
Do you mean it smells alcoholic?
No. It smells composted because it is. It's like composted dirt roots.
And it makes you feel tired and sore.
Makes me feel relaxed.
When like you've got just a little bit of a CO leak next to your bed, and you have that kind of like lance behind your eyeball?
No. So there is the bad kind of tiredness, like being overtired from CO2 or you stay up too late. That's a bad tire. Like you can't think anymore. Like you're being awake too long. Your brain's no longer functioning. That's bad tired. This was not that. This was good tired. This is like I'm about to fall asleep tired.
Right in the morning.
Yeah.
How is that good? You want to be awake in the morning.
No. You're not going to fall asleep. It just makes you feel all chilled out.
Why would you want to be tired? Why not relaxed?
Anyways, let's get...
No, are tired and relaxed different to you, or are you using the word wrong? Those are the only two options.
You can be relaxed and tired, you can be awake and tired. A lot of people, when they're relaxed, they're so relaxed they fall asleep. That's how a lot of people observe relaxation.
I don't fall asleep when...
Yeah, I don't think you've ever experienced relaxation.
Like, have you ever seen me fall asleep? Like, I don't.
I think I've seen you asleep.
Yeah, I mean, like in bed I've been asleep. But I mean, like, sitting on it. I mean, on an airplane one time, I wasn't actually asleep. There's a picture of me. I look like I'm asleep, but I'm not. I was kind of hallucinating. But
that's asleep. You may claim it's not, but that is asleep. That is when you're on the edge of sleep and dancing around in REM sleep or whatever it is.
There's like demons assaulting you and...
Yeah, that's asleep.
I don't think that counts.
It's asleep. That counts. Okay,
sure. I've done it once then. After I've been awake for like 36 hours.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Okay, so I've fallen asleep once after 36 hours of travel.
Yeah, so you don't know how to relax. You don't know how to sleep. There's something wrong with you. Anyways, so on that...
No, I think the Jedi are wrong.
Anyways, so on that matter of my corpse tea...
Yeah.
I think we're doing medicine wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, we should have medicine that makes you feel really itchy. You know
no,
you know that feeling when you're so relaxed that like it feels like you've got mosquitoes burrowing through your skin?
Stop being Nurglite.
I'm not the one that...
Just let me get to my point. It could be a lot simpler. My point is, I think that even here and now, this exemplifies my point, is people are incredibly different. They have different experiences, they have different needs, they have different reactions to things. Like, you might drink this tea and you go, ew, it tastes like dirty dishwater.
Yeah.
Like, no soap, and it's just like, you just soak a bunch of dishwater and it's like, bleh, whatever. And then you could, like, drink, I don't know, some concoction, it's like, this is amazing. And I take it and it makes my head explode. What I'm getting at is there's a vast variety of things in people, and people have different requirements. And I feel like we need a lot more doctors to make this work right, and they're not medical doctors, they're medicine doctors. So, and it's not like, oh, I have a problem, I go to the doctor. It's like, you go to the doctor, like, once a month. This doesn't sound appealing to you, does it?
No, keep going, though.
You go to the doctor once a month, and basically, this doctor is a master of their craft, and they figure out, like, alright, so you have too much black bile in your body.
Yeah.
We need to make it so you have less black bile and a bit more yellow. And
you seem really alert and pain-free. Here's some tea for you. When you wake up, you don't have a moment of disorientation. You just know where you are and you're ready to go. We want to fix that. Like I don't wake up disoriented, right? Like,
it doesn't have to be specific to this disorientation or your worst. Stop getting hung up on this. Alright? What I'm getting at is, like, you have a doctor who, like, maybe has 10 different people they work with. And they specialize in giving them things to make them function. Like, you know you have a racehorse or whatever, and you, like, make sure it gets all the proper foods. Or, like, pro athletes have, like, dietitians with them, and they have, like, physicians they go to, like, massage them and stretch them, and they have coaches, all that stuff. Like, I feel like doctors to a lesser extent should be doing that. And it's like, alright, so these are like the teas you should be drinking. We're going to figure that out. And this is like this like type of keratin has a good reaction with your body. And
reaction.
Yes.
I heard good rectum with your body. It's not on par, you know.
Incredibly dehydrated.
Oh, you know, I love that feeling so much. You know, like when your tongue's like cracking and you're like, oh yeah, I'm so relaxed right now. I could go for some like cream, you know. I don't like cottage cheese just to run over my cracked and dried tongue. Get the whey in the cracks in my tongue.
What I'm getting at is if I don't sound completely syncopaceous with how I'm speaking, in my mouth, just to add to the disgust that you've brought to us. My mouth is full of...
I don't want to hear
viscous saliva.
Yeah,
it doesn't have enough water in it, so I'm really having trouble speaking clearly at the moment.
Yeah. You must love that.
I don't!
Let's see it.
Just... Okay, can we put the disgust and gross feelings, apparently my miscommunication behind us, and just the thought...
of everyone having their own personal doctor.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of having to go somewhere once a month. That sounds like a lot of work.
Well, if they came to you, like...
my privacy's getting invaded a bit, you know. But
you anti-social troll.
I'm not anti-social. I don't want some random communist thinking he owns me and can just come into my world, right? Like, socialization is when you want to be with someone, right? This is some dude breaking into my house and forcing rotten tea down my throat, right?
It wouldn't be rotten tea.
And most people are morons as well, right? So, like, I don't trust this guy already. Just hearing about him, he's gonna get it wrong. Like, I have never in my life, with one exception, have a good experience with doctors. Like, they have failed me at every turn and made my life worse at, like, every turn. I have, like...
You're like a super libertarian, aren't you?
I'm...
Especially now that you have a job that can potentially be taxed, you're going to become more libertarian.
I pay attention to how I am treated by the institutions. And they steal my teeth. And they stab my gums and make my mouth hurt for months on end. And they fail to treat me. And I have to figure it out. Every benefit I've ever had happen to me, I've figured out on my own. And all the negatives and all the wasted time has been on the ends of the doctors. Like, how do I say this without sounding massively... There is no one that is smart enough to take care of.
Sorry, say that clearly. You kind of petered out at the end. Sit up. Yep, say this clearly into the mic.
Okay, what's going on here? There is no one who is more capable of looking after me than myself.
Well, that's not what you said the first time.
Well, I said there's no one smart enough to look after me.
Yes.
But it's the same thing. Like, no one knows me better than myself. And, look, having a doctorate doesn't mean...
Jack shit.
Well, it doesn't mean you're a smart person. Well, it means you're smart in a technical sense, right? Like, it takes a lot of work and commitment to get, but...
Yeah, that's why I'm saying not doctors, because, as you said, like, these are medicine people, or, like, they know what they're doing. Like, what was your positive experience with a doctor?
When they repaired my smashed out teeth.
That was positive? I hate tooth surgery. Even if it's for my own benefit, I hate it.
It was positive because my life got better.
Okay.
Doesn't mean I enjoyed the interaction, but... Like, I'm not saying that I've had bad, like, I had a cavity and then it was like a bad interaction while they're fixing it. No, I mean, every time I've gone to the doctor, they have made my life worse. Except for this time.
Really?
Yes.
Huh. I think it's about 50-50 for me.
And even 50-50 is terrible, right? Like,
yep.
What's you just flip a coin and jump off a bridge if you get heads. I don't know.
Well, that derailed my whole idea.
No, I think you're onto something here.
All right. Let me restart this. So I had this tea this morning.
Yeah.
It's not to everyone's taste.
Yeah.
But it's fine enough tea.
Okay.
And I mix it with some lemon water.
Yeah.
And it relaxed me.
Look, you are probably one of the smartest people on earth. Like, I would put you in the top 1%. Okay? And if this is how you describe good things... Well, actually, no, the second time around is a lot better. But if the first time around is how you describe things... Now, you get a doctor who's not necessarily in the 1%.
I don't think I'm in the 1%.
I think you probably are.
See...
Almost definitely.
I've always described myself as... I'm not smart, I'm clever. I don't think I actually have... I mean, this could just be semantics, but I don't think I have very high intelligence. I'm just good at figuring stuff out.
I think I would say you probably have...
Like, I'm cunning like a Skaven. I'm not smart like a high elf.
No, I think you have a very powerful processing component. Let's put it that way. I think you can very quickly come to answers and to ideas that are very clever and well thought out. So I would, and that's basically what IQ tests measure. So
I feel like I'd do poorly on the IQ test.
No, I think you would do well. I don't know if they have ways. I think you would do pretty well.
I've probably done IQ tests, to be honest.
They're timed, and that would be the main thing that would be against you. Because I think you get the answers very quick, but I think the questions would come slow to you because you have to have the question in your hand before you can spit out the answer, right? And so you have to read a bunch of questions. You have dyslexia, it slows down. But I'm sure there's ways to account for that. And most IQ tests are done by a person. That you can do online ones that are an approximate, but...
Well, if I'm so smart, why am I so poor?
I don't know.
I'm actually not poor.
But I would also say, like, this is kind of my point with the doctors to a degree, actually, is that raw processing power, intelligence, smartness, they can all be different things, right?
Yeah.
But, and...
So...
Yeah, anyways. So, you had this tea. It wasn't for everyone.
Yeah. And it made me feel relaxed. And I don't think it's a thing I should have in the morning because you want to be awake, as you say in the morning. You want to wake up. But I think it'd be like an excellent evening tea. Like you sit back, you like have it in the evening, and then like you've had it, you then can like doze off peacefully after having it.
Right. And you want the nanny state to come in and assign to you a doctor.
No,
in your communist utopia.
I would hire the doctor. Even. Or like maybe we have AI do it in the future.
Yeah, well that's what I was going to get at.
We have robo-slaves. Figure out each human individuality.
That's what I was going to get at actually was this sounds like something that AI would be perfect for.
Yes. And
it's something that people have already used ChatGPT for. David Shapiro, the AI YouTuber, he had a bunch of fatigue problems, and he used ChatGPT to solve them.
There's individuality, but I think part of it does come down to your genetics and genes. I mean, there's the iffiness of giving someone your genetic material, but like, you have like this robot come up, like you have your standard AI house companion, and it just stabs you when you're a baby.
Yeah.
And then it like sequences that, and it then knows how to operate you. Like,
At what point are you playing with dark magic, though?
I think when it stabs you. Like, the Brandon Sanderson's short story, Perfect State?
Yeah.
Like, they know what's going to be the best thing for you.
They think they know.
Yeah, they think they know.
So big government comes in, thinks they know what's best for you.
So that's the thing with the AI, like, seeing your medical thing. Potentially.
So the question is, when did the government get to you?
Well, this is an interesting thing in crazy people. I mean, actual crazy people. It's a trope, but there's a thing where it's, you stop taking your medicine. It's like, I'm not myself when I'm on that medicine. It makes me feel sluggish and slow. Or it's like, I see the truth now that I'm off the medicine, and the person's like a serial killer when they're off it. I don't know. But they are in a changed state of mind. Like, it's very much thing. Let's say you have severe Asperger's syndrome. Like you are to the point of like screaming and headbutting walls.
Yeah, but at least I can like sit on really hard furniture.
Did I say it wrong?
No, I just think it's funny that my Asperger's keep me comfy.
Right. Anyway, so but it's almost debilitating. To what you have. Like, you're going to have to be looked after for the rest of your life. And then you can get a shot, or, I don't know, take a supplement, get slapped enough times in the face, get jabbed with needles, I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's gone. And some people, I think a lot of even advocates might say that that's wrong to do that to someone. Because you've destroyed them.
Well, I think that the way we measure mental health is essentially the degree to which you integrate with society.
Yeah.
Like, when people say, I hope they get help, right? It's not, I hope this person is living their best life. It's, I hope that the doctors come in and change them so that they integrate with the rest of us.
Yeah. Well, I think about this. So, if, like, I could take a medicine that would get rid of my dyslexia. Like, what does that all tie? Like, would I not see patterns the same way? Would I not do math the same way? What was all there? Is there exchange, or is dyslexia actually a complete negative? I'd be able to read and write just fine, and I'd still have everything else I had beforehand mentally, and it's just like a blockage. I don't know where that exists, and my life experiences up to now is who I am, so I won't want to go in the past and remove that, so that was never there. But what is that element in me? Where is that in my mind? How much of that makes me who I am? You when we were in Japan, me the second time, you the first time, and I had what I could only describe as an ego death, I think, of a complete breakdown, as up there in unpleasant experiences in my life, to be certain. I wouldn't recommend going through it. Well, if you need an ego death, then you should probably have one. But I'm not going to be one of those New Age people who misinterpret Eastern teaching. You should seek the ego death. You should seek the death of your ego. It's like, no. You want a strong ego.
But you want to be willing to change as well.
Yeah, you want a healthy, strong ego. Ego death occurs,
but it has to constantly reinvent itself. It does have to die.
Yeah, but a true ego death, like what I experienced, was, I don't think they are good. like that's a surgical thing. Like you have cancer and it needs to be cut out.
But it does need to, like, it...
Yeah.
I think that...
Well, if you have cancer, it needs to be cut out, but it's better not to have cancer.
Yeah, but if you have cancer, you have cancer, I guess. But also, I think, the extremity... What did Jordan Peterson say? You will be faced with the unbearable in direct proportion to your inability to deal with it.
Yeah.
So you could have the same experience from a healthier perspective, and it wouldn't be as devastating, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, like, it mentally changed me, I'm pretty certain. Like, I think I've been different ever since then.
Well, I think if we're not different people over time, then we're doing something wrong.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. So that was different in a very short period of time. The terrifying thing about Cluster B is they can experience ego death like that, and they don't change afterwards.
Well, they experience the threat. They don't experience the ego death itself, right? Because...
But I think they experience the pain as well, but then it just doesn't do anything to them.
Well, it's like, when you get a cramp in your calf?
Yeah.
And so you tilt your foot forwards away from your knee.
Yeah.
You tilt your toes away from your knee because you're trying to run away from the pain, right?
Yeah.
And it gets worse and worse and worse. And all you have to do is grab your toes and pull them towards your knee. And you pull it through the pain, and the pain stops almost instantly.
Good to know.
Oh, there you go. And it feels wrong. It feels like you're going to tear your calf. But you just pull it through, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
And I think that is very similar to all emotional pain. I talked about it, right? The DARE method. It's for dealing with anxiety, but it's diffuse, accept, run towards, engage.
Yeah.
So you're feeling an emotion and you go, okay, whatever, I'm just feeling a nervous arousal, right? You can say that for any emotion. You're like, you're scared, you're nervous, you're angry, you're just like, whatever, it's just nervous arousal. And then you accept the feeling. You're like, okay, imagine it as like a little fuzzy monster maybe.
Yeah.
And say, okay, yeah, you can make you're going like, I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. Everything's falling apart, the world hates me. You're like, yep, good little guy. I'll pick you up. I'll put you on my shoulder. You keep that up. You pat him on the head. You're like, yep, you keep saying that. Run towards. You jog on the spot a little. You go, okay, this feeling excites me. Yeah, this is because the thing about autonomous arousal is that there's only like one arousal system in our body.
Yeah.
And so our nerves just say emotion. And then our brain goes, I will pick the emotion. So you just go, okay, yeah, this excites me.
So that's why when you're lying in bed and you have no reason to have an anxiety attack, you can have one?
Yeah, because you've had an adrenaline rush, basically, of some sort. And so your body's like, okay, this could be that I'm in love. This could be that I'm afraid. This could be that I'm excited for Christmas. Or this could be that I think I'm going to die in traffic. So the run towards, but the most important thing about the runs towards, I think, you can say this excites me. But I think the most important thing is actually you just say, give me more. So that's another thing that the DARE method says. It says, give me as much as you can. Like he was saying, you have an anxiety in the traffic. You think you're going to have a heart attack or crash. He's like, whatever. Then I don't have to go to work tomorrow. Because if I crash and die, I don't have to go to work. He's like, so give me your biggest, come on. Give me a heart attack. Do it. I dare you. So
it's the Joker, hit me.
Yeah, exactly. So you say, give me your best shot.
Yeah.
And then I think it's hard to describe, which is why he describes it run towards. But the way I think of it is surrender, submit, just feel the emotion. So you actually, instead of trying to like, why am I feeling this way? I can't believe it. You just go, I'm just going to feel it. I'm just going to feel angry. Like, I don't like that I'm feeling angry. I shouldn't be angry right now. That's a bad person. I don't want to be that bad person. It's like, whatever. You still feel angry. If you feel like you need to stab that person, feel it fully. Just do it. Feel it.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, no, this isn't who I am. This is what Jung calls the shadow. This is the part of you, the negative part of you that you don't want to admit is part of you, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, just feel it. Just feel it. And this is hard to do because obviously in the moment you're busy being upset and angry and whatever.
Yeah.
And this doesn't make the feeling go away at all, by the way. But you feel it. You're like, give me more. Let me feel it. Doesn't make it go away. And then engage with what you're doing. So, and that doesn't mean seek a distraction. It actually means do what you're going to do already.
Yeah.
So if you were like on your way to play Tetris and then you get hit by an anxiety attack, keep going to play Tetris. But if you're driving through traffic or you're writing a book and you get an anxiety attack, that doesn't mean pull over and start playing Tetris to distract. No, it means keep driving or keep writing your book. And you're like, yeah, but the book will be terrible because I have all this anxiety. It's like, yeah, just do it anyways. Just let that. And this is how you. This is actually how you treat OCD. You say, yeah, you have all these OCD feelings. Like your hands are dirty right now. You really need to wash them. Just keep typing at your computer anyways. Just do it anyways.
Yeah.
Just let those feelings be there and do it. And I think that is that feeling of resistance of trying to rationalize everything. That is basically one of the main defense mechanisms of the cluster B disorders, and the cure is the same for cluster B and C, which is just do what you're doing anyways. Just feel what you're feeling and do what you're doing anyways.
I thought they couldn't really be cured.
For let's say for
like, I feel like you can have tendencies you can probably have.
Yeah, for the tendencies, and I'm not sure if they can't be cured or not, because the symptom is defined by the fact that you resist curing, right? Like that's kind of the point. So I'm not sure. Like it could. There has been some promising developments with dialectic behavior therapy, so which at least reduce the effect you have on others, and also. Cluster B symptoms go down as people age, just naturally, anyways. So
is that why some people hate their parents when they're a kid, and then when their parents are old and doddery, they can
I don't
have a good relationship with them? I think also part of that is you're not constantly exposed to them and no longer under their thumb. But
yeah, and that could be for so many different reasons, right?
Yeah.
That could be abusive parents, or that could be you were just angry kid, or there's like an impossibility. There's a lot of reasons for that. It wouldn't.
Hundreds of factors.
Yeah. But yeah, so with ego death, I think the way, in the words of Peer Gynt, the only way out is through, right?
Yeah.
Well, not quite Peer Gynt, but so it's like what Jordan Peterson said about King Arthur's knights looking for the Grail. They chose the part of the forest which was scariest to them, darkest to them. And you go through and then you realize that there is nothing worse than the feeling of, what's that feeling called? The feeling of avoiding pain. Yeah. There's nothing worse than the feeling of avoiding pain. No matter how bad you think your suffering will be, if you just let yourself feel the ego death or the breakdown or whatever it might be, the feeling of not feeling it is worse. And so
that's hell.
And so what the cluster, this is where we're going to, I guess. The cluster B, like borderline especially, what they're doing is they're staying on that cusp all the time. They're not going through. They're not just feeling the emotions, right? They're avoiding the emotions constantly via staying on that edge of like ego death, as you said, right? It's like, I need to change, but no, that would destroy me, and I'm afraid of that. I can't feel that pain again, or I can't feel that pain ever. So they stay on the edge, and so and I think that is the worst feeling you can have. Like I tried to conceptualize it by saying you want to feel more pain and less torture, but that feeling of not submitting is like, that's the cusp of the ego death, I guess. And that's what stops people from going. That's what stops you from going through with it. But and it's not easy at all. Like I can say all these things, but can I do them? That's a different story, right? Like it's not easy. But you do this.
Well, I think what ego death is total reflection of self without lying to yourself at all.
It's like the anticipation. What's that line in the Blade Itself trilogy? It's like Logan Nine Fingers says, "It's better to do a thing than live in fear of it."
I haven't read it.
Right? But that's the same thing he says all the time. It's better to do a thing than live in fear of it. Because that feeling of fear is the mind killer.
No, it is. So it probably does like kill you, and as with health, it's like.
But like the worst thing you're dreading at any point, right? You go and you just do it, and it's like it might suck. It might leave you a wreck for a week, but it's better than that dread feeling.
Yeah. Well, it's like there's two experiences I never want to experience again, basically, and it is intensive tooth surgery and ego death. I was going to say there's three, and it's the death of someone.
Yeah.
I was like, no, that's going to happen. I have to accept that. So I will, and that's something that I can. It's not like I wish it upon someone to die so I experience that, but I will experience it again, so there's no point in saying I don't want to experience that again.
And I think, like, your sense of yourself, that's what we mean by ego, right? It's your sense of who you are, your sense of yourself. It is the relationship
where
you've negotiated with others.
It's where you know you are in the universe.
Yeah, and that will change constantly.
Yeah.
It needs to change constantly.
Yeah.
And you can't, like, I've talked about this a bit, right, with Sophie from Howl's Moving Castle. Like, she's an old lady, and it's like, you're an old lady now. You have, no matter how much you complain, there's a feeling. I had this happen. I had a problem at work. Secretary and I got in a disagreement, and it really upset me for like and it caused me a lot of pain, like physical pain, because she made me do some extra work that caused me pain. So that didn't help me like her. So that lasted for like a week and a half, basically. And the feeling I was feeling the whole time was really interesting because I could sort of grasp it. It was, I desperately wanted someone to take my pain. Like I wanted someone else to come, like you want to go up to, you want to go up and to your mom and say, kiss it better, right? Like you want to say, or you want to go to your friend and you want to say to them, oh man, my day at work sucked and now your day is fine because they've taken your pain for you, right? It's like, I need someone to fix it for me.
Crippled God.
Yeah, but it's like, no one can take it from you, right? Yeah. You just have to feel it. That's the only way through, is to feel it. And I think the degree to which it lasts is actually how long it takes you to accept that it happened to you.
Yeah.
Because that whole like week and a half was me denying what happened to me in a way. Like if I could just be like, man, that sucked. Right? Like just feel it all. Yeah. Let it hit me. Have some tears, whatever.
Sometimes it takes a while for that to happen.
But instead, it was like this long, drawn-out process of not even exactly feeling it. It was like, I need someone to take this from me. Yeah. I need someone to take my pain. And this is why I was reading about self-compassion, actually, because it's really interesting. What she found, the self-compassion psychologist found, was that if you're easy on yourself, it actually lets you like accept things easier. So if you just say to yourself, oh yeah, that secretary was mean to you. You deserve to, just lie down and have a long night's sleep. Don't worry about your work. Or you should... just, it's okay, I got you. You just say that to yourself, right? Like, it's okay, just put down your head, I got you. It's like, just be easy on yourself, and like,
That's the same thing with dealing with guilt. Is I did something incredibly wrong a couple of months back. Like, I still look back at it and I'm upset with myself, but I've definitely come to better terms with it. But at the time, like, I felt like I had committed a crime, actually, but, like, not just a crime as in a crime on the wall. I felt like I'd committed a crime against humanity and myself. Yeah.
And you say, and it's weird because you say to yourself, everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has moments of weakness.
Yeah, no, this wasn't even like this was a mistake in the most honest, pure intentions of trying to find a practical solution quickly. It wasn't even like, oh, I'm going to steal that to get ahead.
Yeah.
I basically trespassed.
Yeah.
I had to deliver something to someone. I knocked on the door. They weren't there. I couldn't see a mailbox. I didn't want to leave the thing on the ground. And so in my head, I was like, open the door, put it there, and close the door. So I opened the door, put it there, closed the door. And then a guy just came barreling out. It was the son of the person who I was giving the report to. And he just shouted at me. He's like, hey, what are you doing? And got super mad. Like, don't you ever come to my house again and open the door without permission. And
it's funny, like for service workers, that's actually pretty normal to just leave it in like the screen door. So you didn't even do anything that extreme.
Yeah, but it is still like, we both like calmed down. I apologized afterwards. Like, yeah, he like felt bad for getting so angry, but I felt really bad about that.
No, I actually think he's in the wrong there. But yeah, the way to cure that weirdly is you just say to yourself, yeah, everyone messes. Like you think it's wrong, so I won't take that from you, right? But you say to yourself, yeah, I messed up. Everyone messes up, and it's like, aren't you just denying your responsibility? It's like, no, apparently you actually accept responsibility more if you're easy on yourself.
Yeah, it's my mistake I learned from, and he didn't come barreling out the door with a shotgun.
Yeah, but also like you just tell yourself like it's okay. Everyone's allowed to mess up. And it's weird because It actually makes you, like, the lady was talking about, she has this highly autistic son, and she was on an airplane, and he was just screaming his head off, right?
Yeah.
And so they're on the airplane, he's screaming his head off, and she found, it was the weirdest thing, because all these people are looking at her, glaring at her, son's suffering, and she found the solution was to give 90% of her attention to herself, and just telling herself, you got this, it's okay, the plane's gonna land, it'll all be over, you're okay, you got this. And it let her not be angry at her son, not be worried about the passengers, and also look after her son with the remaining 10%, even though 90% was selfishly on herself.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting. And so,
if you want to see a change in the world,
you got to love yourself.
You got to look to yourself first.
Yeah.
Whoo!
But you have to love yourself too. Yeah. And just be gentle on yourself. Like Jordan Peterson says it as well, right? Treat yourself like a friend would treat you. Like you would want to treat someone else, right?
Yeah.
And
treat yourself how you treat your dog.
Yeah.
Who's the good guy?
And so if they bite you, you're like, oh, were you scared? Right? Yeah. You don't go, oh, you shouldn't bite people. You say, oh, were you scared? Right? Yeah. So next time you like lash out and kick your brother because he's like looming over you, go like, look, anyone would have done. It's like, oh, were you scared? It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
That's not how I remember that.
But like that's not exact. But in that situation, what she would say, I do, right, is just be like, yeah, were you scared? Okay. Like, it's okay. Like, and that's what you do. You self-compassion. And it's like, it sounds like you're denying responsibility, but you're actually allowing yourself to accept it more, which is, I think it's fascinating.
Right. We have to wrap it up there.
Yeah, we'll have to do a short one, so I gotta go. Only 2 hours, 15 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Because I gotta go interview people.
Yes. I
gotta go shoot kids and teach stuff.
Yeah. With my latest video, you might have to end your association with me as well.
Oh. Sometimes that's the thing with Journey, right? Like, I've got a YouTube channel, and I've got this thing where I make jokes about Hitler and whatnot. Yeah. Some like crazy, like, Journey seems to me it would appeal to the sort of artsy fartsy leftist type, right? So they're like, I had this great time with this person. Let's look them up, and then they find all my stuff, and it's like, we still had a great time, right? So and it's not. I don't think I do any. Like, I don't consider myself left or right wing, but I think I would probably, if you did put me on the spectrum, would be like mildly autistic. I mean, I would be like libertarian. Left. I would be mildly libertarian. No, I don't think I'm autistic, but
I don't think you're autistic either, but I think you'd probably be put somewhere on the spectrum given their tests.
Yeah, well, I do definitely have some characteristics of it.
Yeah.
I don't think you do, weirdly.
I don't. I'm not on it.
No, I think you. If I were doing like armchair diagnosing, and I had to give people a symptom, right? I'd give me like autism or one of the cluster personality disorders, and I'd give you ADHD.
No, I'm perfectly sane. I have a test that proves it. I have results.
I'd give you ADHD. But I'm saying if I had to give one, right? I don't think like the diagnosis is based upon enough. But yeah.
I just love that when people like talk about like, oh, these are diagnosed, like I might be insane, I might have this. I can say with 100%. I mean, it's an old test and you have to reassess, but I can still claim I am perfectly sane.
If you have like a psychological proof, we have to do the intro. Yeah. If you have a psychological proof that you're sane, I think that says something of its own, right?
It was taking a test to justify, is a part of a suite of tests to justify getting learning assistance.
Yeah. All right.